Is our life guided by an inevitable force beyond our control, or do we have the power to shape our own destiny? This age-old question has intrigued thinkers, philosophers, and storytellers for centuries. In the world of literature, one of the most profound explorations of fate versus free will is found in Musashi, the epic novel by Eiji Yoshikawa. Set in the turbulent period of Japan's early 17th century, Musashi follows the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi on his journey from a headstrong, impulsive young man to a wise and disciplined warrior. In this tale, Musashi's fate seems to be predetermined by the harshness of his world, the bloodshed of battle, and the teachings of martial arts. Yet, throughout his journey, Musashi consistently makes choices that challenge the notion of destiny, and in doing so, he discovers the depth of his own free will. But is it truly free will that guides his actions? Or is it the invisible hand of fate that steers him toward greatness? Musashi invites us to ask, how do fate and free will intertwine in the life of a man? And ultimately, does Musashi's story reveal the balance between these forces? In this video, we will explore the role of fate and free will in the life of Miyamoto Musashi. We will dive into his internal struggles, the pivotal moments of his journey, and the philosophical questions raised by his experiences. Join me as we unpack the complexity of Musashi's journey and the way these themes of fate and free will shape his path to becoming one of Japan's most revered figures. Welcome to the Unfolding Journey YouTube channel. If you are passionate about literature, history, philosophy, and the lives of legendary figures, you're in the right place. On this channel, we explore the profound stories and ideas that have shaped our world and continue to inspire us today. Whether you're a fan of historical fiction, martial arts, or simply the human struggle between destiny and choice, we invite you to join us as we dive deep into these timeless questions. Today, we're delving into one of the greatest stories ever told, Musashi, to explore how the themes of fate and free will are interwoven throughout the protagonist's journey. If you enjoy this analysis, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell icon so you never miss a new exploration into the minds of fascinating historical and literary figures. Let's dive in. The story of Musashi begins at a time when Japan was embroiled in chaos and conflict. Musashi, a young warrior, is shaped by the harsh realities of war, surviving on the fringes of society after the death of his father. He is initially a wild, unrefined young man who enters the famous duel against the renowned swordsman, Sasaki Kojiro. It is this moment, Musashi's first trial, that sets him on a journey of self-discovery, as he faces both external and internal forces that challenge his understanding of fate and free will. From the beginning, Musashi's life seems to be dictated by fate. Born into a turbulent time, he has little control over his circumstances. As a child, he witnesses the loss of his father and is forced to navigate a chaotic world that constantly reminds him of the futility of human life. These early experiences shape Musashi's belief that fate is a powerful force, and it is only through overcoming these external influences that he can begin to understand himself and his place in the world. However, as Musashi grows, his relationship with fate becomes more complicated. He begins to make choices that challenge the very idea of fate controlling his life. His early journey reveals a tension between the inevitability of his circumstances and his will to carve out a destiny of his own making. At various points throughout the novel, Musashi must choose whether to follow the flow of events or to break free from the constraints of his world, proving that while fate may shape the external forces of his journey, it is his choices that ultimately define who he becomes. The concept of fate in Musashi is not just about the whims of destiny. It is deeply tied to the realities of Musashi's time. In feudal Japan, the world of the samurai was governed by strict codes of honor, and the battles they fought were often decided by forces far beyond their control. For Musashi, the clash of sword against sword symbolizes the conflict between the destiny imposed on him by his environment and the free will that he can wield to transcend it. Throughout the novel, Musashi faces multiple challenges where fate seems to dictate the terms of his survival. In his youth, he is caught in the world of war, with no clear sense of direction except for the violent encounters that continuously threaten his life. The circumstances of his birth and the world he inhabits suggest that his life might be nothing more than a series of battles to survive. And yet, despite the overwhelming nature of his fate, Musashi refuses to passively accept it. Instead, he demonstrates a remarkable ability to rise above his predetermined path through the power of his own choices. His decision to leave his master, the revered sword master, Taekwondo Soho, and to continue his quest for greater wisdom is an example of Musashi's conscious rejection of the path laid out for him. Although he could have stayed under the tutelage of his mentor, Musashi decides to challenge his own fate, seeking something greater than just being a skilled warrior. Through this, we see that Musashi begins to realize the significance of his choices and how they will shape not just his destiny, but the destiny of others. While fate plays a significant role in shaping Musashi's life, it is through the exercise of his free will that he ultimately transcends the limitations imposed upon him. One of the most compelling aspects of Musashi's character is his internal struggle to reconcile his desire for vengeance with his growing understanding of himself as a person and a warrior. He begins to realize that his free will is his greatest weapon, not just in combat, but in shaping his future. As Musashi matures, he faces crucial moments where his choices become more important than ever. For example, in his duel with Kojiro, Musashi makes a critical decision to fight his opponent using unorthodox techniques. Rather than relying solely on traditional fighting styles, he invents new methods to defeat his rival. This decision represents Musashi's realization that the battle is not just physical, but also psychological. It is in this moment that he fully embraces the idea of free will, not as an escape from fate, but as a way to shape his own path within the boundaries of the world around him. As Musashi becomes more introspective, he begins to see the role of his actions in shaping his destiny. No longer simply a tool of fate, Musashi chooses his path by embracing his personal philosophy, a way of thinking that prioritizes self-reliance, wisdom, and the pursuit of excellence. This shift marks a critical turning point in the novel, as Musashi's inner transformation becomes the driving force of his journey. No longer a slave to fate, he begins to realize that his choices, even the small ones, are what will ultimately lead him to greatness. One of the most profound aspects of Musashi is the way the novel explores philosophical ideas related to fate and free will, especially through Musashi's eventual teachings. As he becomes a master swordsman and begins to pass on his wisdom, Musashi advocates for the understanding that fate and free will are not mutually exclusive. Instead, they are interconnected forces that must be understood in harmony. Musashi's philosophy teaches that one must accept the role of fate in life, but also embrace the power of free will to act within it. In Musashi's teachings, fate is often depicted as an uncontrollable force, like the wind or the flow of a river. However, he emphasizes that a true warrior must understand and adapt to the forces of fate, rather than fight against them. By doing so, they can use their free will to make deliberate, powerful choices that steer them toward their desired path. This philosophy is not just about fighting battles or mastering swordsmanship. It is about understanding the deep connection between internal and external forces, and learning to navigate life's challenges with wisdom and clarity. In this way, Musashi's journey is both a literal and metaphorical exploration of how we can achieve self-mastery. He teaches that while we may not have control over the world around us, we can control our reactions to it. Through discipline, reflection, and the application of free will, Musashi's story becomes a powerful meditation on how we can live a meaningful life, regardless of the forces of fate. Miyamoto Musashi's life and journey are a compelling example of the delicate balance between fate and free will. While Musashi's world may seem predetermined by the violence of his time, his personal choices and inner growth prove that he was not simply a pawn of destiny. Instead, he understood that it was his ability to make conscious decisions, to forge his own path, and to embrace the philosophy of self-mastery that ultimately defined his legacy. In Musashi, we are reminded that the forces of fate and free will are not opposing forces. Rather, they are intertwined in ways that shape the course of our lives. Musashi's journey illustrates the power of human agency in the face of overwhelming odds, showing us that while we may not always control the circumstances of our birth or the world we inhabit, we can still choose how we respond to them. If you enjoyed this exploration of the role of fate and free will in Musashi, and want to dive deeper into the philosophical themes in literature, be sure to subscribe to the Unfolding Journey YouTube channel. Here, we break down the complex stories and ideas that continue to shape our world today. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, and join us on this intellectual journey through the lives and minds of history's greatest figures. Let's continue this conversation and explore more thought-provoking content together.